I often say that nonprofit leaders have to be strong advocates for the missions of their organizations. And part of that, of course, is being evangelical about your work, what you do, how you make change in the world, and the great effectiveness of your organization. And you also have to communicate that to policymakers. And you have to be strong advocates to policymakers because they control the way your organization is recognized in law through the tax code. They are oftentimes your investor. 30% of funding for all nonprofits across the country comes from public sources. And there are policies that often come up that either strengthen or impede the work of nonprofits in ensuring stronger communities. So public policy becomes, in my opinion, not an option for nonprofit leaders. It's an imperative. It's no less than evaluation, it's no less than fundraising, it's no less than good governance. It should be at the top of the list of priorities for nonprofit leaders because the consequences for not doing it are huge. So we try to make sure that every nonprofit leader, every nonprofit employee understands that advocacy is paramount to ensuring the health and vibrancy of your organization. We also talk about how every nonprofit leader needs to understand the rules when engaging in advocacy, but especially when engaging in lobbying, and the two are very different. Every nonprofit leader has to be an advocate and should be. There are rules for lobbying and how nonprofit leaders should engage policymakers in getting policy change. The two are very different. And so we think it's really important to understand the lay of the land, the rules of engagement, how nonprofits can engage in lobbying, and that they have to engage in advocacy. The public policy arena for the nonprofit sector has really radically changed over the last 30 years. We're seeing more and more of government stepping back from certain areas that nonprofits have stepped into to provide services, to look at how we ensure the health and vibrancy of communities. That has policy implications, and we have to be sure that we articulate what those consequences are. And as I mentioned earlier, the nonprofit sector is where we now promote civic engagement in all its forms, from volunteering to voting to serving in the military. That full spectrum now really rests on the nonprofit sector to promote. So we do a lot of work now through the nonprofit sector to educate people on voting, to educate them on what public policy issues can do to affect their lives. And that is an awesome responsibility that we have to, as a sector, step up to. And that's why public policy and advocacy and lobbying is so vital to the work of our sector. And we need to be sure that we are strong in those areas.